Okay.
So what are we going to talk about?
I don't know. I was thinking something like the profound. What we can scrape from our own experience about it. I like the short story about yourself as a child because it brings so much about the profound there.
Right.
And I really like what Janet said about there being a thread throughout your life.
Yeah, your entire life.
Yeah, where the purpose shows up and sort of.
Right. Well, that was the revelation that I had when I read my letters that I wrote, who knows when.
Uh-huh.
It was something that it was me.
Yeah, right.
There
yeah.
and now.
Uh-huh. And you were 18, 17, 18 when you wrote them?
18?
Yeah.
No, yeah, 18 years old.
Uh-huh.
Wrote a whole bunch of letters. Not love letters exactly, but sort of.
Uh-huh.
Poetic letters.
Uh-huh.
And letters of understanding, there were things like, this is what I understand of the situation, not in those words, but for example, in one of the letters, I was saying, if I were you, I will follow my feelings and not my thoughts. Well, you can say that at 18.
Yeah,
you
right.
said it, but it was something that I will say today, without any problem.
Sure.
And
I would say it too,
yeah,
for what it's worth.
so there are certain things that don't change. Of course, we're filming, but nobody knows about the stories. So
No.
it's kind of, should we give context or we just talk? The hell, nobody understands.
Well, they understand you were 18 and you're certainly not 18 anymore.
With the letters it's easier, but with the story, that story when I was 5 years old.
Uh-huh. Well, I mean, obviously you just retell it in English.
No, too complicated.
Well, I mean, you retell the synthesis.
But the synthesis is that at 5 years old I had an experience that stayed with me my entire life. That it was an experience of light inside my head.
Uh-huh. Excuse me one second.
An experience of light that was absolutely not expected. It happened. It happened when my mom read for the first time a book to me.
Uh-huh.
A book that I could not understand because the words, I had not learned how to read, but I knew that the words were important. So when finally she read the book, after months of begging, it was like, I remember everything, like it was, frozen in time, the moment.
Uh-huh.
And when my mom asked me, well, what was the book about it? I realized that I did not know what she meant, but I had to make the effort to figure out what is it that she wanted to know.
Uh-huh.
And in that process, I realized that I was thinking. So I told myself, I am thinking. And then I realized that I was thinking, that I was a thinking entity at 5 years old. And it was very strong because that light stayed with me inside. It is like I was like a little flashlight or a lamp more, inside my head, illuminating my thinking. So it was a very beautiful and I think that very profound experience.
Yeah, well, I mean, obviously you could remember it well enough to write about it.
Yeah, it was incredibly clear.
Uh-huh.
And, interestingly enough, we're talking about this. Last night, when we did the fire, because we worked with that.
Right.
We worked trying to produce fire. And here our little,
Fungus
and a big piece of pirate that we bought for $4 at the local store that did not work, but is beautiful. And this guy here, yeah, or one of these, probably this one here, actually got fire inside.
Right.
But anyway, when we were doing it and the spark landed on the fungus and it started growing, I don't know why. For me, that has always been an incredible. I think that is a profound experience too. Yeah, it's like I feel that life that I am creating life, or that life is being created in the process. It's very moving and very strong. And of course, we were in the dark. But if you could see my face, it would probably reveal something of that. And every time that it's been that way, with the production of fire, I connect with that. And it's interesting because it's an internal thing. At the same time, there is a little fire outside, but it's like all of that is part of me, and very, very deeply. And there is a lot of joy in the process of doing it or producing it, even when we don't. Even at the beginning, I was very attached to the results, and to whatever, my skills and all of that. But more and more is something like almost like a sacred thing that you do. You go with all your little things, and then you hope that life manifests.
Right.
And sometimes it does, and it's wonderful. And when it doesn't, well, next time.
Right.
And personally, I think that the fire is, in many ways, part of my ascesis. That's why I am so insistent in doing the whole craft. Because I see my process there, you see. I have too many good feelings about it, too many registers of that I have touched things, that I feel that are profound. So, and I have done it through the workshop at this point, because we're just beginning the craft. So it's very exciting for me.
You have internal hints about the relationship to fire.
Yes, definitely.
Good.
Fire and light.
Fire and light, yeah. Yeah, right, well,
Words.
Light, yes.
And words too.
So we were talking about tropisms the other day.
Right.
And I always felt like that there was inside the human being in the back, in the reptilian brain, or somewhere in the whole process of evolution, there was always that tropism towards the light. And so, therefore, it keeps on being reinforced at every level of evolution.
Right.
Coming out of the water onto the land, and then crawling, and then standing up. And this whole thing with going towards fear, which is the act. Negro said it's the act, internal act, that allows the human being to approach fire.
Oh yeah, right.
Rather than rather than running away like all the other animals do. It just scares them to death.
And yeah, I remember the talk. Even though the first humans were terrified, the fascination was beyond the fear. And I thought that was really an interesting thing.
Yeah. I think so too.
Fascination override the fear.
Yeah, fascination over instinct.
Yeah.
Yeah. Self-preservation. Right. Yeah, so that's what we were doing here last night. banging stones together.
Yeah, we got nice parks, the best that I have had in a long time.
Uh-huh.
So
Yes.
at least the materials were good, except the fungus. We didn't have enough.
Yeah, right. And
Just enough for one.
so the other thing was that I figured out later, I was thinking about it, I was thinking how the metal had always covered my fungus while I was working, it was always covered in metal.
Mm-hmm.
And I was thinking if I had bigger chunks
Yes,
of fungus,
you can shake them.
then it would be easy to
Yeah,
wiggle the metal off.
right. That's right.
And it would just fall to the side.
So we should try with big chunks.
Yeah, well, it doesn't have to be
Time.
big, but
No, but
quarter
a
of
bit
an
smaller
inch.
than powder.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Eighth of an inch, quarter of an inch spheres.
Bigger than.
Yeah,
Uh-huh.
that would be, and it would create a whole different process, I think. For me, it would have. So, there's that. Anyway, so the tropism towards light, I feel as a fish, whatever fish lives within me,
Uh-huh.
because once I was there, and whatever remains of that,
So you contain everything.
yeah, I do. You do too, of
Right,
course.
we do.
Yeah,
It's a nice way of putting.
yeah. Well, I mean, it's just the tropisms are so strong. I mean, they're so deep within us, deep, that they're coming from other ways of being on planet,
Right?
other ways of being on Earth.
Probably that's why I was saying, our destiny is in the stars because we belong there. That's where we came from. I mean, why not?
Right? Why
It
not?
seems that we came from the water.
It does,
But in
yes.
reality, all of that came before from the sky, from above.
Yeah, right.
Another. I don't know how to describe it, but it was a different time, different settings, but it was light.
Right.
Isn't that the process? Light is the one that goes converting into matter, and then from matter goes to light again. The cycle.
Or energetic energy. That's what it's. E equals mc squared. Yeah.
Right. So we have to get that.
Matter times time squared. But anyway,
More
it's a lot. I mean, that's a very synthetic way of representing it, thanks to Mr. Einstein. But I find it very useful at sometimes to remind myself of the fish within me, of the, you could say, of the profundity of the evolutionary process that exists within us. And part of that is light. Light keeps on showing up, or you could say even guiding us.
That's right. That's the feeling that I have.
Yeah. So why not the stars? Right. Of course, I mean, that's where we're getting
All
This-
our technology
all our
is
daylight.
going there.
Yeah.
It could be very beautiful, huh?
Yeah.
We don't know what is going to happen, but we're going to end up there.
So if we take it out of the, well,
Well,
I was thinking that we would try to talk more about the internal process a little bit, without any ideas about what that might mean, to talk about an internal process. But I guess we've kind of decided that we're talking about going towards light.
It seems.
Yeah,
I mean,
it does.
that's the guidance and that's the direction.
Uh-huh.
Of course, it's not enlightenment exactly, but something like it. Right?
Uh-huh, right, something like it. Now, and one of the terms that we use is the profound, which gives a different connotation. I mean, it means depth in some ways. Profound is depth.
Right.
So, and because of the orientation of the eyes and the top of the body and all that stuff, in the sun, we keep on thinking that light is up there.
Right.
If so, how's the profound up there? How can that be?
I don't know.
I don't know either.
I think that the profound is not really up or down, to be honest. I think it is. It's around us. It's within us. And it's the famous Om. It's everywhere. It's like, it's not that the profound manifests itself more than that we have to find it.
Right.
That there's a difference there.
Yes.
If I am really, finding, if I am already there, okay, I doubt it. It's not the way to do it. It's not something that you go chasing.
Right.
It's
I agree.
something
Right. I mean, I've had the experience of
Right.
being blocked every time I want
It doesn't
profound.
work.
Right.
Yeah, it doesn't work. You're
Not
shallow.
wanting, chasing.
Right.
Yeah.
So it manifests, and how it manifests is what is interesting. It manifests at times when we least expect, but there is an attitude that I feel that makes sense to have. That is of being open to all the possibilities. Yeah. It's like a very positive attitude that makes that possible. Yeah. To give you a stupid example, like yesterday, I was tired, and so were you, and it's very tiring to do the fire, all of that. But if you get sucked into that, yeah, then nothing happens. It's true, but it's not. So it's not that you ignore it either, but you keep going. You find, better positions. It's like you begin to accommodate yourself for the phenomena to manifest. Yeah, and what I describe in my own words is a disposition. It's a good disposition. Yeah. So it's what we've been talking all week. Disposition towards others, disposition towards everything that is positive. You're kind of an absorbent. And I think that helps a lot because...
An absorbent,
Well,
inquisitor, we talked about inquisitor more than absorbent.
Right. And we're interested in everything.
Right.
It's like a kid. In many ways, that you go back to that thing that you're interested in absolutely everything.
Right.
And that you're positive, because at that time you don't have too many climates yet. So it makes sense also that we do all the enormous amount of leveling, not because we want to get rid of them, but because we want them more or less quiet, not too climatic. When we're too climatic, nothing happens except our own things. But it's like yesterday when we were looking at the Milky Way. That was a very beautiful moment, and those moments, you see what I'm saying, come when you're not really looking for them, but at least we were open to go and put ourselves there.
Right.
Yeah, it's not that the profound came with the Milky Way, but it's a feeling. It's that what I sense that the capacity to get to perceive beauty, for example.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, because you can be seeing a Milky Way and not even notice it, or a sunset that we have had incredible sunset, and not noticing them, or okay, yeah, right. But when you get there and you realize how extraordinary, it's like something opens up, at least inside me. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
That is not. I'm not calling that the profound, but I'm calling that my attitude is open. For something to happen, and I can notice. That your eye is kind of quiet. That a lot of things, the noise is not there, and then you're just there with the silence of the moment, with the beauty, and I think that those are clear, those are registers.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. And they are almost always pretty luminous moments, And I said luminous because they're light, they're not heavy, very
right.
light, and they are again light phenomena for some reason. A lot of the beauty that exists in the world has to do with the light. It's another paradoxical thing.
Uh-huh.
And all the changes in light make them reveal things and the object. So in many ways I feel that that's kind of the approach to the profound.
Uh-huh.
And it's good what Janet said, because I think she's right. It has to do with that essential you that you carry all the way when you're a child.
Uh-huh.
I always was very impressed with the idea that you pray, that you used to pray,
Uh-huh.
and
Right.
that you still do, because it's something that it's connected, yeah.
Uh-huh.
Somehow.
Right. It brings up internal resonances that feel like religion.
It is spiritual.
Yeah, feel
Right.
like spiritual, right?
No, and he says it clearly.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. It's a spiritual phenomenon.
Yeah.
That was a talk on the Sangha, the Buddhist.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
Well, we'll call it what is it? The force in motion? No, the moral force in action.
Uh-huh.
But it is a spiritual phenomenon.
Uh-huh.
And I'm really happy that it is a spiritual phenomenon.
Yeah. So one of the things that I was listening to about and trying to reflect on myself, I was noticing that for me, the profound has to do with more internal and less external, in the sense that I don't have any experiences of the profound in the world, as such. I have my experiences of the profound are when I can pull myself away from the world. When I can, normally when I lay down on the floor,
Right.
and let go.
Right.
And sometimes I fall asleep and sometimes I don't fall asleep. I know it's the wind. Wind whistles. But those things, those internal, that kind of preparation, which is almost religious too.
It is.
Yeah. It's kind of the thing of throwing yourself in front of the crucifix. I mean, it isn't that, of course.
Right.
But you see the nuns splayed on the floor, in front of the altar. as part of their ritual.
Right, it is.
It's part of their vows even, I think it is. It's part of that important ritual that they do. And it feels like that in the sense of like surrender and no expectation. That's it. That's my experience.
I coincide with you.
Uh-huh.
I mentioned some things outside. I get overwhelmed sometimes.
Yeah, it used to happen to me with music a lot.
Yeah, and I recognize that time stops. That's another very clear thing that that I associate with entering that resin. How do you call it? Resin.
Because there's a different
Space.
levels of the profound, you could say it. Because I could play music and enter into what I would call inspired consciousness.
Right, exactly right.
And that would not be the profound as such, but it would. The effect it had for me was that time would open up.
Right.
So then instead of moving fast, it would just slow down,
Stays.
and I would have much more time to pay attention to what was going on around me musically and attune to it in my music.
Right.
Because I would have that, I had all that extra room in the world to move around, extra room in time.
Time is an aspect of all of this that is unavoidable. I think.
Right.
Because and I am really here. Whatever I say, I have no idea what I'm saying, because it's not something that I have thought very well. But I have an intuition. Because you see, the few experiences really do something to time, or let's put it differently. When those experiences happen, time, the perception of time, is completely altered, at least for me. I had an experience a long time ago in 1973 that I mentioned to you, that I was in a retreat and I was, talking to people, and then suddenly I realized that I could actually read what people were thinking. That I could perfectly well see everything that was happening. And two things happened. My body got really hot. I don't know why. And time stopped. And the phenomena stayed for a long time. But there was a time, I thought at the time that this is immortality. That was it. I am beyond anything that can die. That was the feeling, This is, and the other register was, this is the end of suffering. There is no suffering and there is no time. And I am here, and I know I am here, But I sense, that very strongly. So time, and I always think, when I am very non-profound and completely immersed in life, that's when time grabs you by the balls, and then you are pressed by time.
Right.
And everything, and it's amazing because the experiences that we're talking are almost the opposite.
Right there.
Which all of that, no, nothing. No. There's no time.
Right.
So it's good to know, because to even an analogy, also that I have noticed, when I strike the pirate in a very fast way, it's because I am being pressed by time. And I know, you see, I already know the rate, so I slow down. Find the striking again. And it's really interesting because it's again, since we don't have elements, we have to use our own ritualistic approaches with this thing. And I know that it's one of them. Probably music is yours. You know, obviously it is yours. Since I don't hear anything, I use my hands. You know,
Right.
that's my rhythm.
Right.
Because I think that these experiences of going into a profound hazard, they had to do with rhythm. You know?
Cranial sacral.
Huh?
It's a new word I learned
Oh.
from the masseuse.
Oh.
Cranial sacral rhythm, which is the rhythm of the spinal cord, from the bottom to the brain.
Wow.
Sacrum is the bottom of the...
Right. It's that bone.
Yeah, right. Cranial is obviously the head, right? Right there where the spine
Like
is.
this,
Yeah,
right.
right.
And whatever happens in between.
And so there's a rhythm there,
Right.
all to its own.
Interesting.
All to its own. Yeah, it is interesting because there's a way in which you can, well, I mean, there's a way, so much I learned from her about how different kind of stretching, different kind of subtle movements align you, create.
That's what I have heard.
Yeah, align the whole process, and so everything moves better. Everything is more energetically easier to move, easier to. Everything happens better in the body. Digestion, all the processes, circulation. Anyway, and it throws completely out the window the idea of no pain, no gain.
Oh my God, that's a bad idea.
Yeah, it's a terrible idea, right?
Yes.
It has nothing to do with pain.
It's primitive.
Yeah, it's it's the misunderstanding of Darwin, you could say, where the toughest people live and everybody else gets killed.
Right.
You know.
Well, it's also the register probably, the translation, because you see the translations of registers are a difficulty sometimes. The person goes, pump iron or whatever, you know, rides a bicycle for 10 miles, sweat his ass off, and gets his high.
Right.
So he thinks, oh, I have to do it again, even though in spite of all the difficulties, if I want that high, I have to suffer. I have to pay the price.
Yeah.
It's an interesting concept.
Or an uninteresting one.
Or an interesting one.
Yeah.
It's a translation in either case, right?
Yeah, a translation
Incorrect,
of impulses.
probably. Not with not enough elements. Because we have done translations. So I said translation, but what I mean to say is that, for example, at the beginning, when there was not ways to measure anything for the human being, so the phenomena was perceived and interpreted or translated in a certain way. And as we started gathering more information and learning, that changed. That changed. You know, even though we still in the language keep certain things, we know that it's not that way. And the pain, what is it? Pain. There is no gain without pain.
Pretty much right.
It's a
No pain, no gain.
interpretation.
Right?
That's all. It's an interpretation without knowledge of what happened.
Right.
And there's a lot of them.
There's a lot of it. Because it's, unfortunately, is passed over to within the realm of common sense.
Yeah.
Misunderstood common sense.
Right.
So it's homegrown knowledge,
Right.
you could say, which is, anyway,
It falls within assumptions.
right.
And people love assumptions because
Right.
they eliminate it. They're comfortable. It's like comfort food, you know.
Yeah, right.
And besides, as we know, because of the mental discipline, it's part of the makeup. We have to make the assumption, that we don't have enough data.
Right. Right.
And especially not awareness.
Right.
I don't know why we end up, because of the rhythm of the.
Right.
You learn a lot.
Right, because of that rhythm. And because of the experience of stretching instead of exercising.
Right. Yeah, that's what Mary tells me. I have to stretch.
Right. Not
anything
exercise.
else. Right.
Right.
That's what she does. Only stretching.
Right.
Makes sense.
It has to remember in the relax system. We used to use the tightening the muscles in order to relax
at
them.
the very beginning, right?
Right.
Right.
So there's a way in which I was telling that to a friend of mine, and he strained all the muscles of his neck, trying to tighten it so that he would relax. So he took it to the extreme, because I didn't tell him enough, I guess. Anyway, he took it to the extreme, and he had to wear a cast on his neck for a couple weeks, because he ruined the muscles, from push, in order to try to relax, because he could tell that things, that there was a lot. Yeah, exactly
so
right.
He tense everything, and it's just to know.
Yeah.
To get the register.
Right. It's like the delicacy of the human body. Because that's another thing that's non-cultural.
Right.
That you have to force, you have to use
This is the
physical force to get it done, not stretching.
very much the West.
Yeah, right. Yeah, very much. Right, and that's why it's so easy to associate with the wisdom of the East.
Right.
Because because within the wisdom of the East, you see the subtleties and the...
Yes, it's almost by contrast.
Yeah, right.
You know what is interesting though? Is that we now have wisdom in the West, thanks to Silo. That the other day I thought about that, that it's so amazing that we have a complete doctrine, that is born in this hemisphere. It was not imported. It was born here.
Right.
That is, when I think about it, it's an extraordinary phenomenon. But more than that, it's good for both, for the East and the West.
Sure.
It has all the components that you're talking about: the elegance, the softness, and the East of the West of the East, and the soft and the strength, and the, I don't know how to define
perseverance
of our world. And this is apparently not related, but if there is a path to the profound, that you could say, well, this is what you have to do. If you really want to get there, what I will interpret that will be the principles of valid action.
Yes. Right.
If we were, for some amazing reason, good enough to live our lives by the principle, we will be there. That's almost a certainty that I have, because it's the synthesis of all those attitudes that I was trying to explain at the very beginning, in terms of behavior, in terms of relating to the world and to other people, that puts you right there in the correct path.
Yes. I
And,
agree. Yeah.
and it's wonderful because it's a tool that is available to absolutely everybody.
Or tools. 12 of them.
Well, yeah.
But they are,
different tools.
yeah, and he
pick-
even in the inner look, he even goes so far as to call them the laws of light.
They are laws of light. Right?
Yes. Or that's probably misspoken. Anyway, they are the laws of light. It's sensed there and it's sensed here
Yes.
that they're that.
Correct.
Yeah.
So again, you know, in all this our conversations, and we go back to the message.
Yeah, I want to, I happen to have the principles right here,
Oh, you have them right there.
my friend.
Yeah.
Chapter 13, principles. Different is the attitude towards life and things when inner revelation strikes like lightning.
There we go.
There we yes, right? There it is, the little synthesis of everything we've said so far.
Right.
Following the steps slowly, meditating on what has been said and what has yet to be said, you may convert the non-meaning of life into meaning. Sometimes I like to use the senselessness of life because the word sin sentido
I understand.
is senseless
Yeah,
too.
senseless. It would be interesting.
The senselessness of life into meaning,
Right.
or into sense, into making sense. It is not different what you do with your life. Your life, subject to laws, is open to possibilities among which you can choose. I do not speak to you of liberty, I speak to you of liberation, of movement, of process. I do not speak to you of liberty as something static, but of liberating yourself step by step as those who approach their city become liberated from the road already traveled.
I think that is even better synthesis. You see?
Yeah.
Because it's not, you see, the profound is not there that you go and it's what happened on the road. It will manifest more and more in the measure that we liberate ourselves. That is not, you see what I'm saying, what I'm trying to say, that it makes a lot more sense.
It's
in
not
the
a
way
place.
that-
It's not
a place.
Right. It's not the end of the road. It's the
Neither.
road itself.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. So, and what else he says?
He says,
Here are
thus, what one must do, does not depend upon distant, incomprehensible, and conventional morals, but upon laws of life, of light, of evolution.
right.
Here are the aforementioned principles that can help you in your search for internal unity. Number 1. I don't know if I should use the numbers. Yeah, it doesn't matter, right?
That's okay.
To go against the evolution of things is to go against yourself. 2. When you force something toward an end, you produce the contrary. Do not oppose a great force. Retreat until it weakens, then advance with resolution. Things are well when they move together, not in isolation. If day and night, summer and winter are well with you, you have surpassed the contradictions. If you pursue pleasure, you enchain yourself to suffering. But as long as you do not harm your health, enjoy without inhibition when the opportunity presents itself.
Is that number 9?
6.
Number 6, correct. Pleasure, the principle of pleasure.
If you pursue an end, you enchain yourself. If everything you do is realized as though it were an end in itself, you liberate yourself. You will make your conflicts disappear when you understand them in their ultimate root, not when you want to resolve them. When you harm others, you remain enchained. But if you do not harm anyone, you can freely do whatever you want. When you treat others as you want them to treat you, you liberate yourself. It does not matter in which faction events have placed you. What matters is that you comprehend that you have not elected or not chosen any faction. Contradictory or unifying actions accumulate within you. If you repeat your acts of internal unity, nothing can detain you.
And what does it say at the very end? You will be a force of nature.
Yes, that's what it says. You will be a force of nature when it finds, you will be like a force of nature when it finds no resistance in its path. Learn to distinguish a difficulty, a problem, an obstacle from a contradiction. While those may move you or spur you on, contradiction traps you in a closed circle with no way out. Whenever you find great strength, joy, and kindness in your heart, or when you feel free and without contradictions, immediately be internally thankful.
Yes, Maureen.
Yeah. When you find yourself in opposite circumstances, ask with faith, and the gratitude you have accumulated will return to you transformed and amplified in benefit.
I think it's a good synthesis.
Yeah, I do too.
It's a beautiful thing.
Yeah, I think so too.
Unexpected.
Yes. Unanticipated.
Unanticipated. Right?
Yeah. Thanks. Good visit.
Wonderful visit.
Yeah. I think our heads were up.